Hello and welcome to another episode of the 2 Minutes Podcast. My name is Lasker. I'm a consultant radiologist, and I am very pleased to have a special guest with me today, someone very special to me. This is the mother of my niece. This is Romana Dawood Lasker. Please introduce yourself. I think about all that all this week.
You didn't actually even get my name properly right there. And also, why am I mother of your niece and not just your sister?
This is what happens, isn't it?
Before the other.
But this is what happens. It's the same with our parents. Have you not noticed? If I turn up to our house now, my parents are like, yeah, but where are the kids? Like, where are they?
That's true.
And what are you doing?
Yeah,
they don't want you around. Yeah, exactly.
No.
So
You're
similar things
a
happen here.
A cab, just a taxi cab.
Exactly. If you turn to my place, yeah, where's my niece? Where is she? What's the point of coming over? Yeah. Anyway, so mother of my niece, yes, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. It's my first time on here. It's lovely to be here. Yeah, my name is Romana. I am Imran's sister. I'd actually like to clarify that. Is that okay if I clarify that?
Yeah, you go for it. You've got some things to share, so go for it.
I have a bit of a bone to pick. I don't know, a chip on my shoulder. Lots of people, because my husband is also a radiologist, and so everyone just assumes that I work under my married name. When I don't, I work under my maiden name. So everyone comes up to me and is like, oh, is your husband Imran Lasker? And I don't know about you, but there's something really creepy about having your brother being mentioned as your husband. So it's just, I just need to shut that down. Not my husband, my brother. You are my...
Obviously, it's quite cool for me that people are remotely asking in the first place. But yeah, no, I completely get that. But there's a story behind this. Do you want to share the story about your husband being a radiologist and how you were thinking about being a radiologist under the heavy influence of myself? Is that something you want to talk about, or should we just move on?
What I would say is you say, oh, that's quite cool that people come up to me about the podcast and stuff, and people do. I've had students come up and say, oh, are you related in any way to this guy who does the podcast? But come on, my entire career from my medical school, throughout my medical career, I've always been following around with, oh, do you know Imran Lasker? Like, all the time. Medical school, let's be honest, probably not the best impression to follow behind.
Well, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? My medical
we went to the same medical
was
school.
phenomenal. Yeah, we went to the same school
and
medical school. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was well known for, I don't know if that was a good thing, for flunking a lot, unfortunately. But I don't think that's why people knew me. I know that following me around, and they joked about me being the binary man for a while. But yeah, I don't know why.
I don't think medical school is probably not so much, but after I became a doctor, every time I went anywhere, just someone always knew you.
That's weird, isn't it? I don't know why. I keep thinking to myself, I'm a quiet personality, but clearly
you're not.
I'm not a quiet personality at all. This is just the way I am, and unfortunately. But you say that. Let's not forget. Okay, a little bit about Romana. She's very into craft. So if you do like to follow her, do look up Romana Lasker or the Little Pomegranate on Instagram. Quite a big. What's your following on Instagram these days?
Do you know what? We should ask my mum. Our mum. Our mum tracks these things. No, she told me today, actually. She said to me, oh, your following hasn't gone up recently. And I was like, who is... I don't need any of these stats blogs. I've got my mum.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Was it like 29K?
Yeah, but why are people so interested in what you're up to? Why are you on Instagram, or what's going on there?
Oh, do you want me to tell this story?
Yeah, go on. Why not? It was exciting, man.
So I was on the Great British Sewing Bee, 2016, I think it was. So yeah, I mean, I had a great time on the show. Managed to scrape through to being a quarterfinalist. That was on my F3, actually. So it was a really, really great experience. And after that, I've just been juggling all sorts of things in my career. Quite a portfolio GP.
But you know what? You say that about you people coming up to you about me, but I remember during that time, people were coming up to me about you. And I think when I was at Imperial training, people obviously started to find out that you were on the show and stuff. Some people actually watched you on that show. And they were coming up to me telling me that, oh, I really like what Romana's got for your daughter for her birthday. I was like, I don't even know what she's got for my... What are you talking about? And it turned out you'd been like putting stories about making this quill, and you were talking about it and putting it together. I had no idea. And then I looked, I was like, okay, this is going to ruin a few presents.
Yeah, I forget that. And the thing is, I keep it so separate mentally from being like my real life stuff. So when people mention stuff, I'm like, okay, I just find that creepy. Why do you know what I'm wearing, or that I made that, and it's like obvious, because my friends obviously follow me.
Yeah, but, I mean, if you're putting out there, then yeah, it's there for all to see. It's funny about our mum, actually, because I think recently I was on a Radiopedia, so I was really excited. I was on Radiopedia, and they're like, yeah, what's that? I was like, it's like a really big website. I was like, yeah, but no, what is it? And I was like, just don't worry about it. It was a big deal for me. It's okay.
But she does understand Instagram followers, so yeah.
Yeah, she does understand that,
Yeah.
but I don't think
Yeah.
she cares about Twitter or anything else. So fair enough. Like, it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, she's always good to go for an opinion. Speaking about opinions, sorry, I'm quite known for doing these segues, by the way, so you're gonna have to get used to
Okay.
that. Talking about opinions, I don't know whether this is something that. Okay, so Romana is a GP. There was a point when she was thinking about doing radiology, but decided, quite rightly so, that GP was better for her. And actually, her husband went into radiology. Is now becoming a consultant who's just CCT'd. Is he finished now? He's taking
He's got his last day tomorrow. No, Tuesday. Tuesday,
Tuesday.
yeah, last day
Wow.
this week.
Exciting,
Yeah.
isn't it? It really is. It
Yeah.
really is exciting. But anyway, coming to opinion, someone called Haney Aragi tweeted a patient with completely, truly asymptomatic CTO. I have no idea what that means, by the way. And excellent exercise capacity. So I assume this is cardiology based because Theresa stuck this in. Capacity came to see me while back in Egypt for a holiday. I confirmed the decision of his NHS cardiologist in London, reassured him. He went for a third opinion via his private insurance in UK and was scheduled for PCIs. So this is one of the situations where someone's essentially shopping for the opinion that kind of fits what they want. Is this something that happens to you as a GP? Does that come up?
Yeah, of course. That's just standard. I gotta say, I read that and I was like, oh my goodness, this is beyond me. But yeah, of course. And the thing is, if you go to a GP, you're more likely to see a different GP every time. So you could just try hedging your bets and who's going to give you antibiotics.
Yeah, because they could quite rightly say the other GP did this, and then what do you
Yeah,
do? What
always.
do you do in that situation?
Always. And then also, yeah, we get the same thing with the NHS. The thing is, we can give an opinion, and I guess it's a big frustration in primary care, being a GP, is that I can give you an opinion. We can manage a lot of conditions, but it's not going to matter to certain patients because they're going to want to see the hospital doctor to give them exactly the same opinion. But yeah, so it's a common theme.
It is, isn't it? It is. It reminds me of, yeah, I guess with being Muslim as well, sometimes you'll find people trying to get an opinion that kind of fits what they want to do. Don't you think? Like, I've met a few people, but I remember back in the day, there were a few brothers, and then if they didn't like the opinion of something, they would literally walk around and then ask the next bro and the next bro, and then eventually find someone that kind of give them what they want. I think it's just
It's a
human
bit
nature,
like
isn't it?
in the summer when the fasts are so long and people just find the way to get the shortest fast possible.
Yeah. People are like, oh, there's something where you don't have to fast as long. You could do a shorter fast,
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, I know
yeah.
that one. Yeah. It's a good time to employ that. I've considered that too myself. Why make things
But I
hard when
think
they be
that
easy?
the thing that's frustrating about this particular situation is that
Yeah.
someone does cave. It's like the antibiotics, isn't it? Where
Mm,
you do this whole conjunctivitis. Okay, I'm going to go for a
mm,
really basic GP thing. It
mm.
doesn't need treatment, and then someone caves, and then once that person's caved, that person will expect to be treated every single time. Or even
Yeah.
like prescriptions, giving prescriptions for things like paracetamol. We're not supposed to technically do it. That person did it. That doctor gave it, and you're like, oh, okay. Oh.
It must be so personality based because I can imagine being a bit like, yeah, whatever, just take what you want to go. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's happened to me in radiology. Is that in the beginning when I first started, I used to say no, and I think quite rightly. But as time went on, you start realizing that if I said no, someone more senior would say yes, or they'd just come the next day and then find the next person on
Yeah.
duty. And the next thing you know, you'd be reporting the scan you just said no to a few days later. All you're doing was delaying the
Yeah,
scan happening.
delaying. Yeah.
So it's inevitable. I think that we do live in a bit more consumer situation where people, what was that? Someone said to me that my GP is really good. And I was like, okay, what makes them so good? And I was like, oh, they just give me what I want. And I thought, that doesn't sound like a good GP. That sounds like a GP that just gives you what you want, and what you want
Yeah.
can't always be the right thing. But that's what people are like, right? I guess I can understand on some level. If you don't get what you want, then what are you turning up for? Yeah. So you did F3, that's right. Yeah. So what did you do during that time? Did you do? I can't remember. Did you do locums? Did you do a lot of locums?
I don't think I've ever done a locum. I'm just trying to think.
Okay.
There's something about, here's a nice little movement. There's something about locums. So I'm going to be a bit like whoever that model is. I just don't think I could ever be paid enough for me to willingly go into work if I'm not contracted to. Do you
Oh
see
yeah,
what?
I get that. No, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I didn't do A&E locums. I was a teaching fellow. So I had a 9 to 5 job at a university, which was great, and I loved it.
You're probably
and
like
then
me then. You
and then
value
I
your time.
filmed the sewing bee for a couple of months. So then I had a great year. But yeah, no, I actually haven't done a locum. I don't think I've ever done a locum shift. I'm just trying to think about I've been qualified for nearly 10 years. Yeah.
Has
I
it been
think
that long? God, it's been,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
nearly
Time's
10
just
years.
flying by,
And even
honestly.
now, I probably, money-wise, we probably need to locum, but just the idea of it is just awful. Just the idea makes me feel slightly sick.
I think I've locumed, but I locumed as a consultant, and it was a consultant job that I was going to be taking as a substantive anyway, and they just needed someone to come in
Did you not
quickly.
locum before that?
No, I couldn't be bothered.
That's it. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I
yeah.
just
I just
be
couldn't be
poor.
bothered.
It's different. Obviously, the financial situation is different, but yeah, I did no, you can't. I don't think there is a rate high enough to get me to come in my time off.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think for me, I was very lazy, as you probably remember. And
Mm.
I think I had a few months off in between finishing F2 and starting radiology. And I just lived at home. I couldn't be bothered. And I think a lot of people wouldn't do that. But I did because it was just cheaper. And I didn't mind living at home for a few months, even at 25 years old. And I felt no need to locum, but I can imagine it must be tough for people who do need to. And actually, there's a tweet from Annie. Was it hashtag BMA doctors vote yes at Imperial NHS? Why did all your F1s just cancel their locum shifts?
I saw that.
You saw this? Yeah. Do you want to
As
read the
in,
rest?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane.
Yeah, because they asked you to raise the medical rates to equal the surgical rates. So this is about being equal amongst everyone else. You instead decreased the surgical rates, including for the shifts already booked. Wow.
This
What
is
do you
what
make of that?
I
That's a
just
bit
can't, I
underhand, isn't
can't
it?
deal with how, like, backwards management can be. Like, how would that make sense to you? How there is just, I was talking about, who was I talking to? I don't know. I was talking about like the human side of management. Like, I
Mm,
really think the NHS struggles to have a human side to management. It's the little things that make you feel like you're cared for that
mm,
then mean that you actually do feel like, oh, actually, I will come in and I will cover that shift and I will do that.
mm.
But if people treat you like robots, if they treat you like numbers, like, this is just exactly that. It's just, why would you reduce the rate? It's just so bad. I can't believe these kind of things are happening. And I read that and I was like, I'm quite, I don't know, removed from hospital medicine now, but that just, oh, it really brought me straight back to being an F1 and just makes me angry. It makes me
Uh,
so angry.
Honestly, I always rate anyone that bothers continuing with any sort of ward work or anything like that. Because I remember finishing F2, I think beginning of middle F1, beginning F1, I was sitting outside Barnet and I was like, I ain't doing this anymore. And I told the Reg, I'm quitting. I'm done with this. And she's like, no, don't be like that. Don't be like that. And she goes, it will get better. And it never did. I hated everything. I hated absolutely everything about being on the wards. I hated those emails coming in. I hated those signs that pop about having biscuits. You're not allowed to have biscuits. You're not allowed to have tea from the tea station. I hated all of it. I absolutely hated all of it. And the only time it only got better was when I walked into radiology and people being nice to me. Oh, okay.
Mm.
As a radiologist when I was shadowing them. Probably part of the reason I ended up going down this road. But talking about morale and all that, there was Mandeep Bhattarai who also tweeted, "Good morale booster for an IMG trainee starting off in the NHS." And the reason why they take issue
Yeah.
with this is because they've literally written GPST1 open brackets IMG close brackets general medicine, as if the IMG is a very important part of their identity that needs to be highlighted to people around. What do you think they're trying to get at? Why do you think people need to know that this person's an IMG? How does that help?
Do you know what? I really want to give that person the benefit of the doubt, because when people are making ID badges, they just write whatever's on the form. Like,
Mm,
I really want to give the person who made the actual ID badge benefit of the doubt that they were just completing the form and they put it in not knowing what it really meant. But
mm,
obviously, the impact of it is huge. And yeah, as you said, it's just completely isolates someone and kind of picks them out of a crowd for no reason, especially when
mm,
we know how international graduates are treated and how much more at risk they are to being referred onto the GMC. All of these things, all the discrimination they face, it's
mm.
just, yeah, it is really horrible for that person. I would just cut up that ID and go get a new one and tell them exactly what to type on it.
I'll probably just tape it up or tip exit or something so that there's no questions asked. Just get rid of it, isn't it, on the slide? But yeah, I think the situation is that same as a locum coming in to do a shift. Like I feel like they're always on the back foot just because they're the
Mm.
locum, and IMG will always come in on the back foot. Like the kind of I think
People always
people
got
will always
judgment.
feel like, oh, here we go, we got an IMG. I feel like there's a
Yeah.
sentiment there that people don't want to mention, and I think if you are an international medical graduate and it's highlighted on top of that, then it can't feel great, isn't it? You're probably feeling a little bit out of place anyway. You know that kind of imposter syndrome when you've
Yeah.
got no
Yeah.
reason to feel like an imposter, but it just takes that one thing to remind you that,
Just someone
oh,
constantly reminding you that you're not one of us.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that kind of pressure actually makes it harder to do a good job, I feel. Do you think?
Definitely. And this is slightly off topic, but it's also about how you identify yourself. Like,
Mm,
I don't know, did I tell you about this? I started recently back at university teaching. And for basically the first 2 months, I wanted to hit my head against a brick wall
okay.
because they didn't accept me going under the name of Romana Lasker. So Lasker is obviously my maiden name. We share the same surname. And I
Mm,
work professionally under that name. So I
mm,
graduated with that name, kept all my certificates, and people don't seem to understand this. And I don't understand why people can't understand this, that I would prefer to be called a certain name. And so every time I fill in my paperwork, when it comes to medicine, anything to do with my career, it has Lasker in it. That's how I want to be identified. That's how I introduce myself. And basically, they just kept coming, bouncing back and putting my married name on, even though I'd be like, no, please, that's not my name. And like, even the students couldn't find me because I introduced myself as Dr. Lasker. They
mm,
don't know who Dr. Darwood is. That's not me. It's just not me.
mm,
And it's just got so annoying because they just wouldn't let me get myself called the name I want to be called. And in the
mm,
end, I had to call up HR. I had to send in a picture of my passport because my passport has both names. I have one of those extra lines in my passport that says also
mm,
known as, because
mm,
someone once tried to stop me from doing an exam
mm. Oh,
because
wow.
they were like, no, you haven't got the right name. And I was like, no, I go by both names. I'm allowed to
Mm,
go by both names. And it's just so, when you have your name taken away from you, and I don't know, I just got really emotional about this because it's my decision, it's my
mm,
name. I get to choose which name I have my email set up under, what
mm,
name introduce people like me to. I get to choose that. So I can
mm,
see why having someone else put something else on your ID card, because they did it on my ID card in the end. And this was months of me going back and forth, telling this university, this is how I want you to set up my name, and them
mm.
ignoring me. It was really frustrating. Really frustrating.
God, I do rate you honestly for doing that in the first place. I didn't, in truth, I never thought you were going to change your name, like actually change your name or even add a name. I thought that just wasn't going to happen because I think we joked about it, didn't we? I think I joked that I'm going
Really.
to be the only Dr. Lasker in the family if you're going to get married. And then you got married in medical school. So I thought, sweet. And I
Yeah.
joked again, oh, sweet, this is going to happen. I'm actually
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be
yeah.
the only Dr. Lasker in the family. And you went, no, I'm not changing my name. And then you put Dawood on the end. And I was like, well, I thought you said you weren't going to change your
Like
name.
I feel really strong. I felt really strongly that I went into medical school and I was going to come out to medical school, and it was our parents that put us through, and that is my name, and
Hmm,
that's how I wanted to come out, and that's why I quite like having both. So I don't have a double barrel name. I literally flip between one of the. I don't even remember what name I give people most of the time, but
hmm,
professionally, I have kept that because that's who I am. So I don't know. I think people really struggle with that, and it's really frustrating. As a woman, I think maybe more so because people just see your married name and assume that's who you are, and you're like, no,
hmm.
that's. Oh, I get really annoyed because if someone called me Dr.
Yeah.
Darwood, I wouldn't respond because it's not my name. I genuinely
Hmm,
don't use it at all. Funnily enough, weirdly, my
hmm.
3 patients the other day called me Ramana.
Oh, nice. That's cool. Okay, no, okay,
No,
no, okay,
weird.
okay, okay. Yeah,
How
yeah.
would you feel if you're consulting a patient and they call you Imran?
You know what? I don't want to talk to anyone anyway, so I just let them go. Whatever.
Oh, it's just,
Genuinely I just let it fly. I've got
I
to,
don't know.
basically,
It
I've got to
really
get them
was
in. I've got
weird.
to get them out. That is it. Just do the scan
Okay.
and they can call me whatever they want. Let me just do the scan. To go. I've got coffees to have. I've got places to be. No, but I'm joking. But I do. When Rabi and I go on holiday, she's normally the one that does the bookings.
Yeah.
And whenever we go abroad, they always assume that Rabia has taken on my name, but she's never changed her name. So then I become Mr. Carnes. That's just the way it is. So the entire holiday, that Mr. Carnes. You're like, yeah, hi, how's it going? Yeah, good, yeah, whatever. Have you not? Doesn't ever happen to you?
No.
I wonder if that's a unique problem, but yeah, always I'm Mr. Carnes. When I'm abroad and other places, I'm Mr. Carnes.
Does that not annoy you? I
At
guess you're
all.
used to it. I guess it's an holiday
Yeah.
thing.
You know what? Like, interestingly, when we were I had a few friends getting married around the same time as myself. A few of
Mm.
them, my mates started having this sort of conversations on the sly. Are you going to, it was weird. Are you going to make a change of name? I was like, I never even brought that up. It never even crossed my mind. And it became, for some people, it was a very contentious issue.
Yeah.
I want my wife to take my name. And I thought,
Yeah.
but why? Who cares? It doesn't matter. But I think it is like a cultural thing that people, or some people really feel like
Yeah.
someone is not going to be 100% their wife or part of their team if they don't take their
It's
name,
weird.
which I don't get personally. I don't care. Like I said, Rabi didn't never change her name. I never asked her
Yeah.
to. Never.
I like the idea. We have a family name, so we do. Like me,
Mm,
my daughter, and my husband, we have the same name if you look at
mm,
one of my names, but I go by both. And I like that I managed to keep our
mm,
surname, as
mm.
a middle name.
Yeah.
But again, it's about your choice, isn't it? I guess it's being how you choose to identify
Mm.
and how you choose to have your name is really the main thing.
Interesting that you mentioned our parents, Ron, because you said obviously you came into med school, parents and all that. Have you found our parents with regards to medicine and the interaction with medicine? Because they wanted us to become doctors, but they don't like seeing a doctor, do they? They really don't like doctors at
Well,
all.
that's our dad. No, our dad doesn't like doctors. Our dad doesn't like doctors. I feel like our mum is a regular in the GP
Yeah, I don't
surgery.
think it's because she wants to, because half the time but then she goes to the, what are they called? I know it's really bad. I don't know, she gets these random pills from homeopathic medicine and she'll tell me to take homeopathic medicine sometimes. I ain't taking that. No, not a chance. But she's very up for homeopathy and going to see these people and giving a lot of
Yeah.
money. It's bizarre, isn't it? I just don't get it. I just don't
No,
understand.
I think the funniest argument is when we are told, when I'm like, look, go see your GP. And it's like, what was the point of getting two doctors in the family? No point,
Yeah, it's
no one's
true.
my doctor. And it's like, yeah, that's just how it works.
Yeah, exactly. They stop asking me now because they know I only look at scans. I don't like it half the time anyway, so they don't
Yeah,
ask me
yeah.
anything. I think they come after you now because you're actually like a proper. I can tell you about medicine and stuff, but me, it's I don't know, get an ultrasound or something.
Were you about to say a proper doctor?
Yeah,
Were you called the proper doctor?
you are a proper doctor. Me, I don't feel like a proper doctor. If someone faints,
Oh, do
I'm
you know,
thinking I'm
remember the
going the other way,
time
mate.
one of our parents was saying, oh yeah, my son's a consultant and my daughter's just a GP. And I was like, standing there, like, excuse me?
Ouch. I bet you that was our dad. He does stuff like that.
No, it wasn't.
No. What? Wow. I'm surprised at that. I thought that would be dad. He's obviously
Yeah,
very proud of both of us. I just
yeah.
sometimes little things like that slip and you're like, sorry. I've noticed that sometimes when I go into a family thing and I've never met these people, he will introduce me as Dr. Imran. I'm like, no, I'm why? That's just the first thing to start with.
Maybe
But
it's an Asian thing
fine.
though, isn't it? Just that kind of
I
doctor
have to say,
status.
if it wasn't for me having DR in front of my name, I don't think I would have ever made them like proud of me in terms of like I was never a high achiever. I was never going to do particularly well. I was always going to flunk things. And then when you get through med school, it didn't matter if you're the bottom rung. You still got a DR at the front of your name. It doesn't matter. And so that one thing has literally given me my entire life in terms of it probably had something to do with me getting married. And it probably had a lot to do with me being able to do everything that I
Yeah,
do
yeah.
now and stuff. Yeah, that even the third class doctorate degree is still a DR, so I've
Do
taken
you
that.
know what? I tell my students this so much because I have year ones and year twos, and they panic so much about their grades. And literally, I email them with like my formative results of 49% being like, no one cares. Literally,
Hmm.
no one is going to care. When you come out of medical school, no one is going to care. Like, you all just
Yeah.
doctors. There's no, great for the people who get the gold medal and stuff. Yeah, that's fine. The rest of you, no one's going to care. So don't stress.
But I think it goes on all the way through. Like I think when I was in training, people, oh, I've got to get publications, got to get posters in. I did nothing. Genuinely, I think I got forced to put my name on a few things. And it just
Yeah.
happened to be because I knew people that knew people. They recommended me. They seemed to like me. I locumed there for a while,
Mm.
confirmed that I was like I think a decent enough guy, and they took you on. And I think whether people like it or not, I think that is part of the way things work. Because when you're working somewhere for let's say 20 years, they don't want to just have someone with like lots of accolades, but they don't get along with. You do need someone. You'd
Oh,
rather take
yeah.
someone with few accolades that fits in with the department, if that's a nice way
Yeah.
to say it. Otherwise, you're going to just have a really hard time for 20, 30 years of working together or sharing an office.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big shift that happens, isn't it, when you get to that point in your careers where you're less, obviously, you need to have qualifications, but there's less emphasis on that. And actually, like you said, you're going to be working with this person until you retire. You want to be working with someone that you actually get along with.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
big part of
definitely.
it, right?
Well, it kind of takes us on to another tweet saying by Ranjit Kirtan, who says, high education doesn't always lead to high behavior standards. And there's a little meme.
Mm.
Your degree is just a piece of paper. Your education is seen in your behavior. Now, that is interesting, isn't it? Because I think I find myself talking a lot about private schools versus non private schools, whether it's worth it or not worth it. And I sometimes justify in my head that there is some education that can be slightly more well rounded in private schools because they've got the facilities to allow that to happen. What do you think?
Say the question again.
Oh, so I'm just
I was just
saying,
trying to
like,
look for the tweet.
I says your degree is just a piece of paper. Your education
Oh
is
yeah.
seen in your behavior. So it's trying to make a difference between, let's say, for example, I've had the situation where I've met a very eminent professor who's just been not very easy to get along with, and they're known to be
Yeah.
very difficult to get along with. So actually, their behavior has not been particularly great, but they are
Yeah.
who they are. They've got the papers and the accolades. So I think medicine's got a lot of this, no? Where you've got someone with a lot of accolades and stuff, but I don't know, man. The behavior is just not quite.
But you don't
Yeah.
even even if you strip it back, so it's not just the extra accolades of publications and being a professor and stuff. Just having that doctor title, like you said,
Mm,
does give people a big chip on their shoulder, and they
mm,
don't know how to behave. I know we're
mm,
going to go on to this later, but even just there's just ways that you are to people, that you are polite, as in just good people being nice people. And just
mm,
because you have these degrees doesn't mean you can get away with being an arse. You just,
mm.
and that's, I think people hide behind that sometimes. People hide behind being doctors and think they can get away with stuff, and you're like, no, that's not how it works.
It's interesting actually, because not that I've got a particular issue with any social media medics, as it were, because I do see it as probably quite a viable career path, especially if it works out for you. It's great, isn't it? Like, you don't have to do all round stuff if you can make it pay.
Mm.
But the only thing I do get a little bit concerned about is that the general public only see Dr. Such and such, and they don't know like that actually, if you were to get sick, you probably don't want to see the person on that YouTube channel because they've got literally
Yeah.
no qualification beyond getting past medical school. And which is still an accolade in itself, but if you're sick and you get sick and you want advice, you probably want to go to someone more senior. But when you're on the internet, on YouTube and Instagram and stuff, all fine and dandy. But just having a DR in front of your name, I don't think the general public realize that some of these people are very junior and coming across as though they really know a lot of things. And they'll get invited
Mm.
to TV and chat shows and stuff and
Yeah.
give really opinions. And you think, got to be careful. You've got to be careful. You can't be. You've got to qualify that you are who you are. You're not anything more senior than that. Otherwise, you're going to end up in trouble.
But
That's
isn't
the only
that
kind of
the
bugbear I have. Yeah.
isn't that the benefit of having experience though? Because do you remember like being F1 and you were like, oh my goodness, I don't know how to do anything. And then you're
Mm,
an F2 and you're like, wow, F1's really easy. I've got that experience under my belt. And
mm,
then as you go through each year, you realize, oh yeah, actually last year I had no idea what I was doing, but I've got that
mm,
experience. So these
mm,
people feel they are experienced at that point, which is fine. I think what's happened is the danger is that you overstep that, isn't it? And so
mm.
you're then using these pieces of paper, these kind of diplomas and doctor, and hiding behind it, but going too far. And I think that is dangerous. But yeah, I know I'm looking at the quote and the kind of thing. The other thing is there is an element of truth, and I think I don't know. It's both sides because okay, when I'm teaching my students, I do have to remind them so much of being a doctor isn't the kind of academic side of it. It's not
Mm.
the who remembers all the stuff they learn right
The
now.
Krebs cycle. I remember that.
The Krebs cycle, the
Cheese
blood lines.
reaction.
Hematologists do know the blood cell lines. Okay, embryology, all
Yeah, I
these
remember
things.
that.
Mm.
God, I remember
I'm
You know,
sure
I
you do.
remember
Yeah.
embryology. You know what I remember about embryology is that I had a mate. Do you remember him? His name was John, and I used to hang out with him a lot. But he was like super smart. He'd be like in the top 5% of every single exam, where I was like literally the mirror image of that in the center. Anyway, so I remember coming to embryology, and he was like revising, and then he's like emailing the professors about things he didn't understand about embryology. And then he spent one evening trying to explain to me, and me being a thick, I couldn't understand any of it. And I was like, listen, mate, yeah, I'm going to wing this bit because I just don't think it's worth my
Yeah.
time and effort.
Yeah.
And I winged it and actually got around the same marks as him for embryology. He was so distraught. He beat me overall, but he was just like,
Yeah.
you got to be joking. I was like, well, you know what? It's about focused effort. And I just think
Maybe
you
you
didn't
missed
focus
your
your effort.
calling.
What,
You missed your
embryology?
calling. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. No, I'm very glad I'm doing what I do right now. It equals not seeing people, which is what I want.
I'm saying that there is just so much of our job that isn't related to the nitty-gritty physiology side of things. So I
Mm,
see what they're saying with that. It's a lot of our professionalism. It comes under professionalism, isn't like communication, all of that,
mm,
empathy. And that's such a big part of it. Because, there's just so many times when I'm seeing patients and they come in and I've literally not touched them. I've not
mm,
touched them. We just sat, had a conversation, even when they've come in with physical pains and stuff. And actually, all you need to do is just communicate. Listen, that's it. And they get up themselves and be like, oh, thanks. I feel so much better. And they walk out. You're like, hang on, I haven't actually done anything. So there is so much. Yeah, I don't know. I can see both sides of that one.
Yeah, I guess I see what you're saying. Like I said, I try not to have too much of a conversation if I can manage it. But I can imagine having a conversation can be quite useful, as in you're treating you treat them by talking rather than giving them pills, which is probably ideal. But I think you were alluding to something that we were talking about to one another earlier about anonymous accounts. And I think you were saying to me that I've ruined Twitter for you. Isn't that right? I've ruined Twitter for you, haven't I, over the years?
Yeah, you
Like,
actually have,
yeah, go on,
genuinely.
tell them. Yeah, tell them how
Yeah,
do.
so I, with my craft stuff, so I do quite a lot on my social media with my craft stuff, but I keep it quite separate. So I don't really dabble in the whole, so I wouldn't call myself a social media medic at all. And to be honest, most people on my Instagram forget I'm a doctor. And sometimes I'm like, okay, no, I have to remind people that, yeah, I have other jobs. And so I keep medicine kind of social media I don't really go on it that much, but because of the algorithm, everything you like comes up on my page. So I know everything. I see all these things. I'm like, hide, or, oh gosh, I didn't want to see that because it makes me angry. It's like I try and avoid it, and then it just comes up. So I know all the goss. I see all the stuff, all because of you, and I get all these things. So it's nice actually, because I can keep my kind of finger on the pulse a little bit, but without getting too invested and too stressed out about the stupid things people say.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when we started the whole Twitter, social media, medical thing, like we're just doing it because we thought it was funny, but it ended up being quite a good mirror of the general sentiment of what was going on, like what people were talking about, what people were worrying about. Obviously, people are talking about strikes and pay and the way they're treated and the bullying and racism, and it just comes up in all its forms. And I think Twitter, and actually, Thrucia is an absolute beast. I've got to give it to him. He's going to listen to this, and there's no words that can describe how much I rate this guy because he does have somehow keep a pulse on everything. Reddit, he's got down. He's got Twitter down. He just knows what's happening all the time. And he's got a genuine interest in this stuff and can have a laugh about it too. But people who can't have a laugh sometimes, we've been talking to each other about anonymous accounts, and this has been coming up a fair bit. And my advice to all anonymous accounts is that you aren't actually anonymous. Believe it or not, there's a few that we already know, and it just doesn't take much to figure this stuff out. It's just not that hard. I know you think you're being very smart. But Julia, she was a previous guest, but we couldn't keep the recording for various reasons. Julia is unfortunately not very well. I won't go into that. If you follow her, go ahead and hopefully give her some good vibes. But she was talking about not being particularly well. Then someone, I'm not going to say whoever they are because I don't want to pile on them either, but they came in as an anonymous saying, I can't see you becoming a doctor. And then someone did a little bit of digging and found out exactly who their name is, what their GMC is, and told them to go away. And they don't look like they bothered replying, or they've just decided to go quiet. I did check their account. They've not been very active, surprisingly enough, since that particular thing. And that's the thing, like, there are quite a few anonymous accounts, and I know exactly who they are because they've actually let slip. Someone has told me, someone has mentioned it in a group.
Yeah.
And they continue to be emboldened by being a quotation mark anonymous and be quite mean to people. It's really quite shocking sometimes to see some of the things they think they can say, thinking that people just don't know who they are, but you do. And a lot of the WhatsApp groups, they know who they are and will be talking about, oh, did you see what Thing said? And you think, oh, when are they just going to stop doing this? Because we all know who they are. Everyone does. And we know that from this particular situation that arose or someone's looked into it. It's a dangerous game to play. And I just don't see the point.
It's
sometimes.
so unprofessional. Like, it's so unprofessional. And I know we don't like talking about GMC and stuff, but it is just such a shady way to act because it's not just that they're anonymous. It's the opinions that a lot of the time that they're also spouting. It's like you shouldn't be expressing those opinions. If you even think those opinions, I'm worried because, and I guess it's the same thing when people are making quite racist comments. And I've seen, as I said, your tweets may come up and things like come up in your podcast come up on my feed, and you're like, I don't know how you think that's okay to say as a public doctor who sees patients. It could be things like racist things, like when that kind of topic comes up, and you're like, that is such an obviously racist way to think. And it makes me sick to think that a black or brown person could be coming to you as a patient and you can't see how your behavior is racist. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the thing with the anonymous accounts is that, let's say, what's this with this particular situation, they made a horrible judgment about someone based on their own health. And so how are you going to treat your patients who have the same conditions or present with the same conditions?
It is scary.
It's just, you shouldn't be expressing those opinions.
Have we talked about this guy called Asim Malhotra? Do you know who that is?
The cardiologist, is he?
Yeah. So he seems to express a lot of opinions that a lot of people would say that's quite detrimental to the wider medical field. But he seems to be all right. He seems to, as far as we can tell, nothing's really happened. So I don't know. What does the GMC really do? Because you hear these very extreme things. Did you hear about the laptop thing that came up? I think this was a while ago. I think they were trying to get a laptop from work, and then they were told that they could get a laptop when the next few laptops come out.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
because they
you
were
get these extremes.
that came through
Yeah, that's
our
right.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So you get these extremes where not very much has happened, but they seem to have taken to town over it. But then you've got these other situations where it seems like quite a lot's going on, but nothing seems to happen. So you just don't really know. It would be nice to know exactly where the lines are, but I'm not sure no one ever really knows what the lines are, which is why some of these guys feel like they can say what they want.
I
Yeah.
just, maybe it's harsh, but I just can't see how you can be a good doctor and express those kind of thoughts. Like, you shouldn't have those thoughts. It's not even that you shouldn't be expressing them publicly or anonymously. It's just you shouldn't be having those thoughts. That's what I think is just so bizarre about these people.
Yeah, I know. I really wish they would just listen to me, mate, and just stop doing the anonymous thing. We know who you are. Please just stop it. You're being silly now. There is someone that is. I don't know. I always feel bad to say this, but they become a bit of a med Twitter villain. I don't really like using that phrase. I think everyone's got their opinion, and I think you can still learn from. Yeah, he's had some bad takes over the years. But I'm not going to say the person's name, but they said, I do wonder how many of these Twitter active anonymous junior doctors did any due diligence of a career in medicine before applying to med school, or do they just want to do what their parents wanted / expected them to do? So it doesn't often, it normally comes out with complete rubbish, a lot of the time, in my humble opinion. But I think on this one, I thought, yeah, it is quite interesting, isn't it? Because the argument would be that by being anonymous, you can really express what you want to say. You really want to say something, you really want to get it out of your system, and you want people to know what's going on. And then by going anonymous, you can really say how you feel about the working conditions and all that kind of thing. But then I guess what his argument is that due diligence would mean that it's predictable. And in some ways, I don't think much has changed in the last 10 years with regards to the way medicine's run. The things that we see coming up over time, like I relate to those things from when I was a junior. These emails that are coming out, the racisms that come out, the pay issue that's coming, the rotas that happen. Like, as far as I remember, that's been going on for absolute like ages. So I guess his argument would be, if you knew that, then
I
is
don't
that
know. No, I think it has changed. Firstly, I
better or
mean,
worse then? Go on.
12 years of a certain group of people in charge has definitely changed
Yeah, we've
things.
been
I mean,
accused
when
of
did
being
you?
anti-Tory. I love everyone, so I'm not anti-Tory at all.
Okay,
Yeah,
but no,
anyway,
what
yeah,
I'm
carry on.
saying is, the NHS has changed. It has changed so much, and I think it has changed so much since I qualified, because I qualified, and then a few years later we had the junior doctor strikes, and then a lot of so I had that stage where we were still working those 7 days back to back or 2 weeks back to back. Remember, where they don't do that anymore, and it has changed a lot, but also I think it's got so much worse. I genuinely do think the morale has just gone, where people just got on with things, and now everyone's just, I think the burnout is just insane. And the thing is, I feel really bad because like I said, I teach very early medical students. So they've just started medical school, some of them. And one of the things that they talk about is how everyone is so negative about the career. And they are really smart, really charming, intelligent, fantastic people. And they are coming in to do medicine from so many backgrounds now and so many reasons to do that. And they're obviously going to be incredible doctors and change things. But they see everyone else and they're just already demoralized from first year. And it's really sad. Like, I have to really try and balance myself and remind them that actually, you know what? I know it sounds and feels really rubbish right now, but there's a reason I still go to work, and there's a reason why I'm still here teaching you, because there is that faith in what we do. But that to put it on other people, and the people going into medicine and then say, why are you complaining? You know what it's like. It's a stupid comment, to be honest, because things have changed so much.
Yeah, they have changed. They have changed. For anyone that is a junior or at a medical school and are thinking maybe this wasn't about a good idea, the thing is, medicine is so vast. Like,
Yeah.
I've said this before, if you want to do nothing, you can go do nothing. You genuinely could do nothing. Like, very, as in, you're not running around, you're not doing the night shifts, you're not doing. There are jobs where you can do that. You basically, if you choose the life that you want, then
Yeah.
you can work your way towards it. And I think
This is what
people
I keep
do,
telling
right?
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I look at your career, but also look at my career. If I explain to people what I do, I work 4 sessions as a salaried doctor, so 2 days a week as a salaried doctor. Then I work kind of 2 days teaching, and then I do crafting. I literally craft for a day and get paid for it, and it's incredible. It's a career that I never thought I could create, but it's one that I genuinely enjoy. It stimulates me in so many different ways, and it's just like the right balance where I actually go into being my GP days, and I enjoy it. I actually enjoy my work. I couldn't do that work if I didn't have the craft side of things, if I wasn't doing a photography tutorial for Hobbycraft. I sound so silly when I go talk about that compared to when I'm in my kind of GP head and talking to patients, but it's such an amazing feeling to be able to carve out a career. And that's one of the things I tell my students and my juniors. You shouldn't ever feel trapped. Like the thing about
Mm,
medicine is that, yeah, there's loads of difficult parts, but you can take the reins, you can create the career you want to. It's not
mm.
easy, and it has been tough in loads of ways. I feel like I've got about 4 different jobs at all times,
Yeah,
but
but you
like
choose
it's,
to. You choose to, as in
yeah,
you
and I
made an
love it.
active choice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I think people feel trapped, and I think this is the thing about training as well. Because you are on a treadmill, you're there for 5 to 6 years, a medical student from 18. Then you go into foundation years, and that's already for you 2 years. And then you go into some sort of training, and it's just you
Mm,
feel like you don't have control and you don't get a
mm,
breather. And that's probably one of the big reasons I did GP, because I just got fed up of being under someone else's thumb. Like, I just wanted to
mm.
get out, which,
I
I
think
mean, yeah.
I was similar. I think for me, I was like, okay, first of all, I need something that's going to run through program. That's what I need. I don't want to be applying for anything between. I don't want to be
Mm,
thinking about anything else. I just want to get in and get through. And then when I look at the other end, I want to see what they're doing. So if they're doing nothing, I want to do some of that, or just not. And I need to be short as possible. Actually, for me anyway, remember it was GP or
yeah.
radiology, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
took a punt on radiology and it worked. But GP was a very viable option. But I think that's what people need to understand from yourself and myself and others as well. That I think part of the issue may be, and I'm almost feel a bit embarrassed to even, I haven't really said what I get up to in my normal day because I almost feel embarrassed that it doesn't involve work all the time. But I think maybe that's something that should change, that people should be like, if I don't work 13, 14 hours a days every single day of the week, then
Yeah.
maybe that's not a bad thing. I shouldn't be embarrassed
Yeah.
that this is the way that I've chosen my life to be, because I think at some point you do make an active choice in terms of what you want to get up to. And it may be
Yeah.
that you make less money, but you have more time. That just,
Yeah.
and that may be the way it is. And that's fine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And that's what I find whenever I tell people about my career. Like, so many students have come back to me and said, I didn't even know that was possible. I didn't know
Mm,
it was possible to do what you do. And I was like, that's because we don't really talk about it. And like you said, I feel embarrassed sometimes, especially when you talk to people who are like, oh, what diplomas are you doing? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
mm.
yeah, I really like education. I don't have a special interest. I literally have no special interest in anything clinical. I really like crafting and I really like teaching. And like,
Yeah.
it makes you feel like less of a doctor, but it's, if you knew how much of my craft stuff and my other stuff and my teaching stuff brings to me as a doctor, and vice versa, how much of that experience as a doctor I can bring to those other elements, like,
Mm,
you wouldn't see it as anything less than a positive. But because it's not the standard black and white kind of the career path, people just think it's weird. But I think we do
mm,
need to do that, and I think we need to role model those careers for people who are further earlier in their careers and are feeling worn down. And I think the other thing, and sorry, I'm going a bit of a rant here,
no,
I
go
think
for
it's
it. I do it all the
so
time. Yeah.
important to nurture us as people. Like, and I
Mm,
think this is what really we're really lacking. And I think one of the things I was doing when I was a teaching fellow was talking about person-centered care, and it was for patients, and it was brilliant. And how we shift away from treating people as diseases and things like that, and actually seeing the whole person, a whole
mm,
person that fits into a family, into a society, into a community, and that's how we treat them. And I think what we really need to do is really focus that back on ourselves,
mm,
because we are people and we have interests. And if we don't nurture those interests and give ourselves time and space and grace to nurture those interests and things, whether that's being with your family, whether that's baking, whether it's painting, whether it's podcasting, whatever, if we don't
yeah.
nurture those things, we're going to suffocate ourselves, and it makes us better doctors. So we shouldn't be being snobby about the person who has a bit of a YouTube channel, or I'm taking random examples, but we should be
Mm,
encouraging this, because this is how we get longevity in our careers, because we will
mm.
enjoy it and we'll be better doctors for it. I really hate when people are like, oh, I can't do. Honestly, some of my students are amazing. They're like trained as chefs. They do artwork. They're
Wow.
incredible people. They're learning how to sew, some of them. It's really lovely. And
Oh, cool.
I just think we have to encourage that.
But you
That was
know
my
what?
rant.
Interesting. You remember yeah, you remember I did the comedy course recently because I just thought I've
Yeah.
got time now. I'm going to do it. But actually, that was really fun. And I feel like it did help. I like to do a lot of teaching. I do run a relation
Hmm.
business side. I do a bit of YouTube, and I've started to pop up on other forums. But that comedy course was like amazing as something to bring forwards and bring into some of the teaching, because you do throw in a
Mm.
few jokes and you've rewritten it from before and you've thought about it and things like that. And I just think that there's not enough of that sort of cross pollination between things out, because an ordinary like if I went back to my consultants when I was training, I said, oh, you know what, I think I'm going to take a comedy course and I want to get
Mm.
CPD points for it and maybe get funding for it. People are like, absolutely not. Who's going to do a
Yeah.
comedy course? How's it going to help you for anything? But
Mm.
actually, that comedy course has ended up being like so useful. And then obviously I've been getting into a bit of video editing and sound editing and stuff like that. And actually these skills are proving more and more useful as time goes on,
Yeah.
because I think this is a medium that we all need to learn how to communicate in. And it's not, I don't think it's so much as you need your people who are going to have the big accolades, undoubtedly are going to push the boundaries of everything, but you also need people who can communicate that in whatever medium possible.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point in having the knowledge out there? It's just going to sit on some journal somewhere and never see the light of day.
Yeah.
So there has to be like effective communicators, and I think as doctors we need to be effective communicators, and there's more than one way to do it. And I would actually encourage anyone to think about going on to drama classes and stuff like that, because do you remember when we did like those med school exams? I mean, a lot of it felt like acting. Oh,
Yeah.
you've got a
Yeah. Yeah.
patient, now you've got to act out
Yeah.
the scenarios that I'm doing drama, is it? That's what it feels like. But it is. You have to, sometimes you've got to act a certain way. You've got to act as something that you're not to get through a
Yeah.
situation that you're not comfortable with, right?
But don't you think so much of medicine is built, as in the current way it's structured, is built on you having to sacrifice and just encompass just being a doctor? Like your whole life has to revolve around being a doctor. You literally timetabled around your rota, whether you get married on a certain weekend. Your entire life just revolves around being a doctor, and that's what's expected of you. So you're expected to, I know this can be a topic that comes up, but you're expected to sacrifice your free time to fill shifts, because that's
Yeah.
what you're expected to do. You are a doctor. That is the only thing you're supposed to prioritize in your life. And this is what I think is going to kill our career and our juniors. Like, genuinely, I think this is how we're going to burn everyone out and everyone's going to quit, because we don't let them nurture, we don't let ourselves nurture those other aspects of our lives, which are so important. And it's because we just expect from day one, you're a medic, that's it. You're in medicine, you don't get to do anything else, that's it. And I think we just carry on that path.
Actually, do you remember when I was flunking radiology really badly? And I think there was one point where it got really bad. And I think one of these consultants actually took me to the side and took me to an office. And this person's quite senior, and I thought he would go at me again. And she said actually something that I will always remember. She goes, "It seems like you're working quite hard. Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, I'm always working." And then she was like, "Are you really studying and you're not really getting through these exams and you seem like you're constantly stressed?" And I said, "Yes, I am. Obviously, I've got a lot on my plate." And then she says to me, "Yeah, when was the last time you went out and just had a good time?" So a long time.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been studying forever. And she goes, "Did you know that like seeing your family, seeing your friends, going out, that's like the petrol that gives you the fuel to keep going. And if you
Yeah.
don't do that, you're going to run out. So my advice to you is not to work harder, is to actually do the opposite and work less hard and concentrate
Yeah.
on the other things." And I think that has been like one of the most game changing, because that kind of started to make me realize that this is just a job, right? And
Yeah.
everything else is far more important, which is why I've manipulated things to enable me to be at home more often and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I think this is often lost. And I think we get pulled into the idea that you have to give everything if you're going to be successful. If you want to be successful,
Yeah.
you have to do this. But actually, I think I've come to realize there are different ideas of success, and the ones that are pushed onto you by med school and maybe your peers may not be necessarily be success to you, because to people who look at me, they may say, "You're not very successful in mine. You're not doing any papers. You're not going out. You're not doing anything." But then to me, I feel like, yeah, I am successful. I get to, I don't know, go to the gym in the middle of the day and pick
Yeah.
up my kids every single day, and they never get
Yeah.
to really
Yeah.
miss me because I'm always around. Those things make me feel like successful. And I think when you are a med student, I would highly, and I've actually get people message me a lot nowadays and I end up talking to them. And the only thing I really tell them is to work backwards. Think about the way that you want your life to be and work backwards and think, how am I going to get to that life? If it's turning up
Yeah.
one day a week, then make it happen. There's a way to make it happen. There will be somewhere, and it may not be where you're training, but it may be
Yeah.
somewhere in the world that will allow that to happen. You've just got to keep that aim in life. But yeah, I think that's hopefully both our rants on
Yeah.
work-life balance, isn't it? We both ranted about that, because I feel like I talk about this a lot on this podcast, and maybe that's why, I don't know why people listen to this. Anyway, let's move on to another tweet. A moribund doctor said, "I still don't finish the ward round at 1 p.m. today and was shouted at by a nurse and a patient relative because TTOs were not finished. I cancel my shift tomorrow on the same ward because no amount of money is worth the way I was treated today." That's what you're saying, but you're
Yeah.
more like, my free time's not worth that kind of money. But this is about being treated. Like, how
Yeah.
badly do you want to be treated for the money to be worth it? It just
Well,
doesn't
do
seem
you know,
right.
I think for me, it's not so much either the free time, it's also the intensity and the stress that comes in working. Especially GP is just right now, it's so awful. It's really difficult.
Can
And
you
it's
tell me more
exactly
about
that.
this? Because a few GPs said this and I don't buy it.
What? Excuse me? Come over. Come over. Next time you come over and say that to my face. Say that to my face and see. What do you
You
mean?
can't. No, carry on.
What do
Tell
you
me.
mean?
I want people to know what's going on with GP. Tell them what's happening. Like what
It's
the struggles of GP. That's what people want to know. I
the
can't tell them that
struggles of
because I'm not a
GP.
GP.
I feel
Yeah.
like no, if I do the GP rant, you know what? You're gonna have me on at a different time because I can go on about GP for hours. It's yeah.
Did you? I think maybe it was last week. I was talking to someone about this, and I was saying like the weirdest thing about life right now is that let's say we're talking about the 2 week wait, and you know how the scans are not being
Mm.
reported soon, and there's a whole delay and the whole management system. What they do is go after the GPs, even though it probably should be. I'm not saying it should be, but there's probably more complexities here. But you need more radiologists to report those scans. That's what you need, right?
Yeah.
You need more
Yeah.
people reporting and getting those things done. But instead, they say no. We need to make it easier for GPs to refer for scans. That's the problem. And although that may help your situation, it also highlights that you are the situation, that you're the problem, not me. It's not me seeing you're not doing the report. It's, well, you're not letting them through in the first place. So this agenda that GPs are like the cause of everything, I find bizarre, but it seems to
No,
be the
my blood
public
pressure
rhetoric.
is already going. If you want my argument in a nutshell, some people, again, not naming people, but people have been eroding GPs to the point where I genuinely have no idea what is happening to our profession. We've completely undermined GP as a profession. I have a whole rant. I do this honestly day in, day out. Lunch break, come home. I tell my husband as well. It's scary what's happening to GP because on the hospital side of things, we're seen as, let's be honest, not real doctors half the time. We don't know what we're doing. We're referring too much. We're not managing things well enough in the community. And then on the other side of things, patients don't believe we're doctors. Genuinely, they just
Oh,
don't
they
see us
don't?
as doctors
Oh, well,
anymore.
okay.
No, we're
Okay.
just remember the whole self-referral thing.
Oh, yeah.
We were going to do this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm glad we postponed it from
Mm.
after the Labour Party's fantastic tweets. People don't see us doctors anymore. They see us as barriers and referral machines. That's it. We're barriers to secondary care because you guys are the real doctors. They just need their scans. They just need their MRIs. They just need their referral. They need to be seen by the specialist. They don't see us as doctors. And so we're the barriers. We're apparently very difficult to get hold of. I have these. No, I can't even do this. I can't do this because I will go on for an hour about how, because there will be things like I'm not saying the system is working. Obviously, the system is not working. There's a reason why it's not working. We're completely overwhelmed. When people come in and they're like, I was 40th on the line on the phone. I've had patients come up and say that. And it's been really hard for me to get a phone call or an appointment with you face to face. And I'm like, okay, you're here now. Let's try and talk about your problem. I'm really sorry about that. And they're like, no, I don't understand. I have to wait so long to get on the phone, to get to an appointment to speak to you. And it's outrageous. And I was like, well, you know what? When there's 49 people in front of you, that means there's 49 other people who are trying to see a doctor. And they're always like, yeah, but they're not as sick as me. And I was like, every single patient is saying that. So what are we supposed to do? And I think people can't conceptualize this. They find it really difficult to understand that when there are 29 or 49 people in front of you, that is actual people with actual problems who also want to see their GP. And how many GPs are there on the other side? There's not that many of them. There's a limited number of people and there's a limited number of work. And the amount of work that we do, like when Tove sees my list and he sees my laptop, it's an open-ended thing. It's open-ended and it's so high intensity. And I think people don't understand it from the patient point of view and from the hospital point of view. Obviously, we know that everyone's very busy, backlogged with COVID and everything else. But there's a real push from secondary care for us to manage more and more complexity. And so we're dealing with things that we shouldn't really be dealing with. We're prescribing medications that we really shouldn't, we're not really supposed to. And we're just stuck. And then everyone hates us. As well as and we hear these articles about what a GP's doing, that your waiting rooms are empty, you're not even working, you're not seeing patients. You're like,
it's bizarre, isn't it? The assumption is that you're doing nothing. If they can't see you working, then you're not working. You're chilling in the background.
I don't even know how we got into that. I told you, don't start. I can go on.
But you know what? I have to say, I don't know if I get in trouble for this, but the private sector is booming because of this. It is unbelievable. If you look at this, the request coming through is, can't get this through. My GP didn't let this through. I'm sick of waiting for the scan. And especially MSK, it's just,
Yeah.
there are literally so many scans, and the request literally is, it's taking too long. NHS taking too long. NHS taking too long. Is this the bigger picture? Is that what's going on? Is that what you lot are
Yeah,
trying to do?
obviously.
Like, you're trying to push us
That's
to,
literally it. It's the
and
erosion. It's
yeah, it's
complete
working.
erosion
I
of
mean,
what we
it's
had.
there. It's
Yeah.
all there. It's all there for the taking. There was another tweet actually. So yeah, we're talking about Datexes. Do you remember Datexes?
Yeah. Didn't they
Yeah,
get
yeah.
renamed while we were
Oh, did they?
juniors?
They're
Feel
talking about
like someone
renaming it
renamed
again.
them. Maybe,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, anyway, they're talking about renaming them again. We've been down this road, haven't we? Yeah, what do you think? Actually, there's someone called Vikas. I don't know. Do you know Vikas Shah? He's a really nice guy, a radiologist he tweeted something today. Basically, I can't find the exact tweet, but he was basically saying that he's been around long enough that we know when they come out with new initiatives to deal with,
Yeah.
they've done it before, but they're still talking about their new initiatives because there's a new team that's come forward, and
Yeah.
he's got to the point where we've done this before, everyone. It's so fun, isn't it? It's so true. We're just dealing with the same things and then getting people to come out with the same answers. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
the X-ray doctor. If you do want to check him out, he's awesome. He loves to talk about radiology. He goes, yeah, I'm at the stage of my NHS career where every new initiative, idea, or approach is just a rehash of something from before. It's cyclical, the same conversations, just a different set of people. It's depressing to be the one saying, well, we've done this before. Yeah, I don't know if I've quite got to that stage, but you can imagine that is probably going to happen at some point where, just come on, mate. We've been there, we've done this. How many times are we going to go down the same road? We'll find the same fires. I know you say that has changed, but I don't know, man. The entire time I've been working, it's always the same. We get like some sort of black alert. It's a black alert.
Yeah.
Oh, they're discharging many people, and then we get over it and was like, yay, high five, emails go around, everyone did a fantastic job. A week later, we're back on black alert. Can we just deal with maybe not getting into this alert situation in the first place, instead of having to deal with the problem when it gets there? Surely we should know this is likely to happen again, unless something is done from the root cause
You just want to change the criteria. Have you been watching just that from... Just learning from when they were doing the COVID numbers, isn't it? We're just going to change the criteria.
Yeah, it's not going well.
How many people have COVID right now? So it looks like there's a lot less.
Yeah, I love stuff like this because a lot of it is quite comical. If you take a step back and if it wasn't real life, you'd probably laugh. The thing is that the MP, come on, man, it was blatant. Tax was being missed on some level. Come on, let's just get through all the mistakes that happen. I ignored a few. Look. People don't want it, especially they don't want to pay tax. They'll do everything they can not. There's an entire industry related to not paying tax. So when someone gets caught out for it, they were trying to not pay tax. Do I need to spell that out to anyone? Please do not fall for this, okay? So this is another one of the situations where the game is blatant. It's so blatant. Stop it.
But we're at the stage where if people just say it enough, then people just start to believe it. You know what I mean? Like, you just say false information enough, and then people just get bored, or they just start believing it. Or like, do you know what? And then they move on.
Yeah, I just love it. Like Boris, did you see that where he was asking for loan advice or something? Anyway, there was this whole loan thing, and the thing that's come back was Boris will now stop asking for loan advice. No, that wasn't the issue. The issue was he made friends in high places that made things happen. It's obvious. We all know what happened. Please stop pretending. But they were like, oh, yeah, no, we'll talk about the other thing. All right, fine. You lot carry on. Yeah, I got too cynical in my old age as well now. You just carry on and just keep doing what you're doing. I don't expect any less.
There's something also quite nice about, maybe I'm being, I don't know. When I talk about this kind of stuff with my colleagues at work, and when I'm like, I have no idea if GP is going to be around when I retire. I don't know what my career path's going to be, because it just looks like we're going to disappear. And they're like, nah, we've done this before. As you said, they're like, don't worry, we've seen this before. We've gone around this cycle. We've done this. Don't worry, things will sort themselves out. And it's quite nice. I mean, there is a bit of even they have shifted a bit, but it is quite nice and, I don't know, reassuring that they've already done this before. And they're like, yeah, we've done this. It's all right, don't worry. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
It's true. Actually, I remember when I was applying to radiology, people were like, oh, teleradiology is something that's coming up, and what they're all going to do is just ship it out to people from abroad, and they're going to just come out with cheap reports and stuff like that. On some level, yes and no. There's just not enough radiologists in the world in general. And then there's a big argument, oh no, we can't let radiographers do reporting because if they do that, then there are going to be fewer jobs. Radiology is dead. Yeah, but if you've got every single radiographer that was interested in doing reporting radiology, there's still too much work to do. And some radiographers actually have to do some radiographer work as well. Like, they're not doing full reporting all day.
Yeah.
So this is the same. It's been the same thing ever since I started, and there's just been a slightly different thing. So now they're going to talk about AI. Fine, fair enough. Like, AI may happen, whatever.
It's going to take all your jobs.
Exactly. Go ahead, because there's always other things to do, and life is so big and vast and stuff. You just find something else to do. It's all right, mate. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. So maybe there is something quite nice about it, comforting about it.
Yeah, maybe there is. Yeah, maybe there is. Yeah, maybe these lots should keep tax evading or just keep having the same conversations again and again. It's like, yeah, I've been there before. There's another MP not so long ago did exactly the same thing.
To be clear, I was referring to the tweet and not the politicians avoiding tax.
Look, his horses needed to be heated.
Thing.
Isn't that amazing? His horses needed to be heated. He was disgusted when he found out that the horses heating was being, what do you call it, expensed to the public. Disgusted, really. You've got an entire team of people and no notice that the horses being heated by taxpayers' money. Is that really possible? Please, let's everyone just stop being silly. Everyone grow up. It's not a movie. It is. It's kind of. It almost is a movie these days. Like
it's farcical these days.
It is. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's entertaining as long as you don't get too upset by it. I think amazingly, Romana. I don't think you were convinced we'd talk for an hour, but we have. About Med Twitter. It's been an hour and a bit.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. There you go. So I think we probably should stop because I've got to do editing and I've got 10 scans to do before I go to sleep. So yeah, Romana, thank you for coming on. I think it's been a while coming. Do you actually ever listen to the podcast? I don't think you have. I don't think you ever listened to it.
I did listen to it a lot, and then
like
you just
1.
churned out quite. No, I listened to a good. I went into double digits. I'm not going to say where, but then you churned out too many, and then I just couldn't keep up.
I don't know how we've kept up. I don't know why we keep doing this. I don't know why. It just became, it became habit. It just became a habit. Like, Thrusha's already keeping up with it. I'm keeping up with it. I'm part of all these groups that are talking about it all the time anyway. And then it just seems to be like, even Rabia, you're podcasting now, aren't you? Oh yeah, I am. Yeah, Can
I say something to your audience though?
Yes,
maybe
go
on
ahead.
your
No, you go for it. You go for it. This
Okay.
is the point where we say, Romana, do you have any parting words? Go for it.
I was gonna say how thank you, but like how amazing this has been for you though. I know you do your podcasting stuff on the side, but I don't really get involved with that. I see you, and I think this medical Twitter and this community that you've created has really changed things for you. Like, you've got such a passion for it, which is really nice, but also it's really opened your eyes up to very different topics. We have completely different conversations, I feel, than we did before. Even things like I did tell him off about this, but when you went back to Bangladesh and you found pictures of our granddad and you tweeted that, and like that curiosity about our history and where we came from, the reason why I told him off, just so people understand, was that he tweeted a picture that he found of our granddad in medical school in Bangladesh, black and white picture, to you guys before he had even sent it to me. His family, his own family. He tweeted it to you guys, medical Twitter people, before he did. And I think it's been really nice to see you get really passionate about something, but also engage with some really amazing people. And I think it's just been a really nice demonstration of how important it is to talk to people that you may not necessarily talk to otherwise, and create those bonds and relationships outside of your normal circle, because you've met so many people through this podcast.
Yeah, it's been life-changing. I didn't expect it to be. Like, it was meant to be a joke. It was meant to be, and we didn't expect anyone to really listen. If you listen to episode 1, or if anyone listens to it, just drop us a comment. And then it just started this, yes, it's been work, but it's been enjoyable work, and opened my eyes to like little things, like what other people's life experiences are and how different they are to mine. Come on, I know Dad worked hard, but we had a nice life. Like, we had a wonderful life. We both went to a wonderful school. And all those kind of things, when you realize that, not everyone has a nice life. Not everyone has a nice thing. Not everyone has a nice experience of things. And even your experience.
But that's why I want to say thank you to your audience, because they have created that for you. And I think it's almost been therapy for you in lots of ways, as in it has 100%. Changed your life. And I think having seen you from the other side and seeing you as your sister, I can see what a positive impact this has had. And it may just be having a safe space to debrief. And I think there is such another one of my rants is about having safe spaces for us to talk about things. And I think it has been a really amazing safe space for you. So I guess a big thank you to your audience for creating that, and the people who come on and the people who tweet to give you that content. I didn't realize I was going to say thank you to your followers and stuff, but there you go.
I did not expect that at all. Thankfully, no one comes after me. I don't know why. They should. But
they need me to come on, do a question and answer. What is he really like behind the scenes?
You know what? I think Thrusha was looking forward to you coming on, because I jokingly said you're going to find someone who's going to basically know what I'm actually like. So anyway, you do know. There you go. Things have changed for me significantly since starting this podcast. And I would encourage everyone, even if you don't start a podcast, to talk to more people, because that's what this has forced me to do. Because otherwise, I've said this before, when you qualify as a doctor, as a radiologist, or whatever, as a consultant, you already know where your life is going. You've seen it all before. You've seen exactly where it's going to go. So you might as well do things a little bit different. Just do things you want to do. And I think that's been something that I've tried to do with the comedy stuff and the podcast and the YouTube. And there are a few other projects I'm going into that I just think, why am I doing this? Like, why on earth am I doing this? And I think, actually, you know what? If I didn't, then I know exactly where it's going to go to. I won't. It's the same old story. So I might as well change things up a bit and learn something new. Anyway, thanks for coming on. I will be editing this now
Okay.
and putting this out. So everyone have a great week. I hope you've enjoyed listening to my sister. I've actually, yeah, and also do follow her as she is. Wait, do you want them to follow you? You want craft people, don't you? You don't want med Twitter people. But anyway, do look for us.
I do. If you like rants, I do occasionally rant about medicine.
You do,
but
yeah, you do.
I do. I do. I ranted last week, didn't I?
You did. And actually, you've got some good causes. I think you did the Sew in Colour, which was like a nice little play.
Oh yeah,
SEW.
racism is my thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's your thing. Yeah, you called out a lot of
Trying to contact.
magazines on basically only using white models, essentially, which is really good initiative because, in truth, I never noticed. I didn't even know that was a problem until you mentioned it. Definitely worth giving a follow, especially if you're into crafts and stuff. So yeah, thank you, and I'll see you all next week with Thrusha. And Romana, no doubt we'll have you back, especially if you've got
I thought you meant me. Yeah, am I going to see you next week? Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm pretty free next week. But anyway, we'll probably have you on the podcast soon enough if you want to do another proper rant about GP, or maybe even a GP special. Yeah. You want to do that?
A GP special? Oh, absolutely.
All right then. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.